to sit here and watch this last minute. I will now call the September 26, 2019 Board of Commissioners work session to order. Commissioners, this month we will not be doing a consent agenda. So the first thing is review and discussion of items for the October 1st, 2019 Board of Commissioners meeting. And we are going to have Alicia, Financial Director, go over the financial records that we would normally go over on Tuesday. We're going to go over them tonight because she will be leaving in the morning to go to the Georgia Finance Officers Training, will not be here at the meeting. And since this is an item we don't normally vote on Tuesday nights anyway, she'll go ahead and present to us now.
What I've done is put together the financials for July and August combined, and I kind of prepared what I was going to talk to you about from the August perspective, in that we've got 2 months into the year and wanted to kind of look at it from that direction. This year we continue to do well as far as our cash reserves are concerned. At the end of August, in our general fund, we had $10,660,957 compared to a year ago where we had $7,661,878. That's an increase of $2,999,000. So we've seen year-over-year increases in our cash from 17 to 18, and now again from 18 to 19. So that's very good. We're moving closer to that fund balance of 25% that we're all interested in attaining, I think. So that's the big thing as far as cash is concerned. For the 2 months ending August 31st, we had year-to-date revenues of $5,060,313, and that's 9.49% of our budgeted revenue. Last year we were at 8.86%, so we've actually collected a little bit more as a percentage of our budget than we had at this same time last year. Our expenses so far for this year are $8,172,351, and that is 15.32% of our budget. Running a little higher there. Also, last year we were at 14.55% of our budget. So far this year, our TVAT revenue, which is our ad valorem tax on automobiles, has seen a nice increase of about 17%. We're also seeing increases in our sales tax of about 6% year over year. So those numbers are coming in good so far this year. Our expenditures, I think all of our departments are doing well in watching their expenses and making sure that they're staying within budget. So I don't think we have any big concerns there. That concludes my report.
Do we have any questions for Alicia?
Madam Chair, I've got a couple of questions. Some of these I went over and talked with Ms. Cersei ahead of time, and she may have a little more information on a couple of the items, but I feel like it's important, especially with a new year, some of us are new in our roles, that we not only look at what the total numbers are each year when we pass the budget, but we're looking at these from a monthly basis as we move forward to see if the picture is telling us something as we try to govern. So the first question I had under revenue was charges for services. The prior year annual budget was higher, but the current year to date is up significantly.
I think that's due to us having a few timing changes as the end of the year we had that in a couple of expenditure line items, and we had that in a couple of revenue line items where we had some revenues that flowed over in from the prior year into the first period of July.
Okay, in intergovernmental, we essentially the same question. The current year to date is about double over prior year to date.
Yeah, there again, I think we had some stuff that from June that flowed over into July that pushed that number higher. I think as time goes along and we get more months behind us, that'll all level out closer to where we anticipated that it would be.
Under expenditures and risk management, the current budget is less than the prior year, but the current year to date is nearly double over prior years to date.
We did have an increase in our automobile premiums. We've experienced some losses there, and our premiums went up pretty significantly, and then we did there again have another timing issue of some expenses related to a prior month.
Okay. In clerk of court, year to date is nearly up 40,000 over prior year to date, and of course I know that's a little bit larger department, and we've increased that budget, and I know we've got raises that went around, but I didn't know if that was reflective of such a large hit in just 1 month, or if there was something in addition to that.
Well, the wages are increased in every department by the raises. In clerk of court, we have seen an increase in health insurance and workers' comp. So we had a pretty good claim. It wasn't a real big claim in workers' comp, but a pretty good sized claim that was bigger than the prior year.
Okay. In Superior Court, they've spent less year to date than prior year to date, but they've got a higher annual budget as well.
That goes back to our court reporting. Last year we were trending significantly higher in court reporting, and we increased our budget to cover that. So far this year our court reporting has been down, and the number of dollars that we paid out for our per diem on our jury has been down. So as the caseload changes, that may trend up to kind of balance out in some future months too.
Okay. And I think that's something I'd probably like to know a little more information. I certainly don't want to interfere in the courts in their operations, but that was one of the things that we talked about in the budget was it was getting harder and harder to get court reporters. The fees were going up significantly, and I can only assume that the caseload continues to be significant from the perspective of we were at once looking to split the court, the judicial system and so forth. So to me, that's just a little bit peculiar. There may be nothing wrong. It just doesn't seem in line with how we planned our budgeting. So
I agree.
The public defender, the year-to-date is significantly less than prior year-to-date.
Well, last year, there again, we had a time and difference. They invoice us in advance, and we had paid 3 months at the end of August, and this year we've kind of watched that to try to make sure we keep those pay them when in line with the month that they're due instead of paying them in advance. So this year we only have 2 months in that line item.
Okay. And under parks, our current year-to-date is nearly double of prior year-to-date, and I know they're busy, and we've had some things that we've approved to start building on, and I assume that has something to do maybe with labor, but just when it was double the amount than prior year-to-date, I just wanted to double check.
We do have additional labor cost and temporary labor cost, and I think that is contributed to some of the building projects,
Okay.
as well as the spray and splash at Little Tallapoosa has been busier, and we've had more labor associated with that.
Okay. And my last question, beer and wine, and this is something I've asked a question before, and it's hard for me to try to follow why this is always up and down, but year-to-date tax is down from prior year-to-date, and it just seems like we continue to be busier and taking on more restaurants and so forth, and I didn't know if there was some kind of story behind that or why we'd be down in taxes.
I'm not exactly sure all the details on that. When I look at the vendors that remit to us, their year-over-year remittance have been down. But I haven't had the time to go and research that specifically to find out why those vendors are paying us less this year. It should be sales-related, but I have not been able to confirm that.
And my theory on that is if we're bringing in, for instance, more restaurants, each vendor could be down, right? Because you're sharing the market amongst others, but this is not a matter of looking at individual vendors. This is a matter of looking at what we're taking in under that line item. So to me, I just don't understand why it's down. There may be a perfectly good reason for that. I'm not saying anything's wrong. That's just struck my curiosity when I saw it. So thank you, Ms. Searcy. I appreciate that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions? Okay, not hearing none, we will go on to the 8.2, the gasoline tug purchase with the West Georgia Regional Airport. And I'm going to ask Barry Davis if he'll come forward and answer any questions, or if you have a couple statements you want to make first, otherwise.
Thank you for having me here. For y'all that haven't been to the airport, I'm offering an invitation to get with me sometime and let me give you a personal tour of the airport, because we have a great little 1 mile of asphalt that reaches the whole country, and it's a really important place. Just to give you, if I got about 2 or 3 minutes, just to kind of give you an idea, we get our revenue from the sale of gasoline and from the hangar rents. And so basically, there's a few things we need, like grass cutting and stuff like that. We're just not physically able to do ourselves, but everything else, we're able to handle it okay. The DOT laughs at us and they say they think we're the only airport in the state of Georgia that doesn't get a big check every month from the cities or counties. So we're actually a pretty good miser of our money. So it takes us about 5 years to save up enough money to do a project. So 5 years ago, we built 6 corporate hangars. We had 9 people on the waiting list, so we pulled the trigger and built 6 corporate hangars. We just paid those off about 3 months ago, and we've saved up enough money to do the next project. So right now, while other airports around us have empty hangars, we actually have 31 people, I checked this week, on our waiting list for T hangars. That's tremendous, and it's because we run a good airport. So what we're doing, we're pulling the trigger on this project, and we're building 2 buildings with 8 hangars each, so we're doing 16. So we're doing about half of what our requests are. But, the project to move the dirt was $2.3 million. 95% of that comes from the FAA through the DOT, and the 5% comes through us from local money. So I kind of jotted that down a minute ago. I think our portion of that, we've got one change order that's $55,000, and then we have to pay $116,000 of our money. So about $171,000 we've got to take out of our checkbook, which if I think we sent y'all our statement. We only have $196,000 in our checkbook. So we're going to be, this project's over, we're going to be about broke. So anyway, and it'll take us about 5 years to pay this off and save up enough for another project. But we had on the tug, what we had during the Super Bowl, we had all these big jets come in. But we've got a somewhat locally owned jet that just came in, paid about $28 to $30 million, depending on how nice their interior was, depending on the price. So we can't move a jet like that. With the little tug we had, it was basically just for moving baggage. If we ever got it moving, we never could stop it, by pulling it. So we'd be in trouble. So they tried to turn it around just with engine power. Now this jet was so new, it didn't even have the numbers painted on yet. They were just stuck on with decal. So this was the first flight to Carrollton, and they come around and they stick the wing right in the EA chapter building, right in the front of the hangar. So insurance paid about $6,000 to fix the building, and I heard it was about $54,000 somewhere in that neighborhood to fix the wing of the airplane on a brand new airplane. So Randy and I decided, and the airport authority decided, that we needed to do something. We've got to have something that we can handle these customers, because with the economy like that, people are buying more jets. We're getting more jet traffic. Our gas sales are up. And, you know, we've got a lot of other commitments on the money we've got. We're kind of flat. And we don't usually come to it and ask for something unless we really do need it. So that's kind of where we are. But I'm open for any questions if you have any.
Commissioners, do y'all have any questions?
Oh, and a tug is about 60-something thousand, and we found a refurb for around 30, 28 to 30. I think it's 31,000 with delivery or something like that. So that's, we're doing a $30,000 tug. So that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, I've got, Barry,
Okay.
you said that, you mentioned that are we the only airport in the state that doesn't receive
That's what
funds
the
from
DOT
county?
says. I mean, I know LaGrange gets 65,000 a month from the city, and, you know, they don't have as much traffic as we do. But, you know, we've got some great people on the authority that know how to run a business, and, you know, kind of like our FBO, we've always subbed the FBO out to other people. And the last FBO operator, we were actually subsidizing them $2,000 a month to stay in business. And it got to where they wanted to maybe $6,000 a month, or they were going to walk. So we let them walk. And so we'd never done this before, but we decided to run the FBO ourselves. So I wrote a business plan that we could make money. The problem Carrollton had, the pilot community is really close-knit, and all the few aviation blogs out there, all the comments for Carrollton was, do not land in Carrollton, it's a ripoff, stay away. It was terrible. I mean, you go in there and you'd be embarrassed about some of the stuff that was said about Carrollton. So we had that to overcome, and we did that in about a year and a half. It took us about a year and a half to do that, and now the blogs praise us, and I mean, I'm very proud of what we've done. I guess you can tell I'm passionate about the airport. So.
Was that the past manager, Hangar One?
Yeah.
Is
Well,
where you
that
got
one
the
and
bad
then
publicity?
one after that too. Yeah, both of those. And so by running it ourselves, I know it's a job because we do it as a volunteer. And but it's the thing to do, and we're doing great with it. So there we are. But like I said, if anybody wants to come out, I'd love to carry you around and show you the kind of behind the scenes tour. You know, y'all may not know what the airport does.
As a newcomer,
Okay.
can you help me understand the
Okay.
contribution, since it's a regional authority?
Mm-hmm.
I guess last year, Carroll County gave about an $85,000 fuel truck, is that right?
Okay.
And so with it being a regional authority, members on there from Haralson County as well as Carroll County, I'm just wondering, what is the Haralson County doing as far as the airport?
I don't know how to answer that question.
Okay.
Not much. I don't know the official answer for that, but I know the feedback is they don't get the tax money we do.
They get no income off of that?
None at all.
None at all?
None at all.
Right.
And so, there you go. I mean, we're fortunate to have it located in Carroll County. I think back in the 60s when the airport was chartered, I think the regional thing was in fad, so that's why it was done as a region instead of just Carroll County. So that's kind of what we're stuck with. So.
And Alicia, I guess you got financial records, income, profit and loss, information and so on from the airport. I guess we have that information, is that correct?
Yes, we have two separate sets of financials, one from the FBO and one from the airport manager. So there's both of those pieces.
I'm just,
Those are both airport authority, but we do keep a separate checkbook for the FBO. That's what we do,
yeah,
just so we know what's going on.
yeah. Just curious while you're here.
Okay.
And I could ask this later, but I'll just go ahead now and ask. From, I guess, an auditing standpoint, why are there two sets of records instead of just the regional airport authority's records? why one for FBO and one for airport?
Well, like I
manager?
said, we've never run the FBO, we've always subbed it out. And I guess we did that for a standpoint of the first year we were in the hole on the FBO, so it really shows us the picture better just by having a separate checkbook for the FBO. So the first year we were actually having to transfer money into there to operate, because when we took over the FBO, our fuel trucks, we basically got them out of a junkyard. They because we didn't have any money to buy new fuel trucks. And so, Michelle probably knows a fuel truck is all about the fuel supply system. We're putting fuel in families' airplanes and business airplanes, and we've got to have it 100% pure. We cannot have contaminants. So when the fuel system, delivery system on a truck goes down, that's it. It doesn't matter if the fenders are falling off. As long as you can deliver the fuel correctly, that's what you got to do. So basically we did this just so we could see that we were turning the thing around, and we've just never changed it. I guess that's the only reason. We've never really thought about it. It's worked okay. But it is all under the airport authority, so.
Okay.
Barry, I've got a
Okay.
comment, and I guess a question. I had asked Commissioner Lee if he would ride out with me yesterday, and we rode out to the airport and
Okay.
actually looked at the tug. I'm certainly not a tug expert, but the piece of equipment looked like it was in very good condition. The tires looked like it had a new paint job, looked like it was
completely
definitely
refurbished.
something that was worth the money. Here again, not being an expert, but just looking like it was a well-maintained piece of equipment. I know when we considered the fuel truck before, one of the things that Mr. Williams had talked about was essentially that to be able to bring in some of the larger jets, that you had to be able to have something to fill the fuel capacity. And so I feel like from an economic standpoint, this probably goes along with that same picture of what you're trying to promote with the airport, is essentially if we're wanting to either bring in industry, or if we're wanting them to continue to consider expanding, if they're of a corporate box, they've got to be able to bring in their planes. It's the way of the world in transportation now for the bigger companies with executives. So for me, it's not that I think we should subsidize big corporations, but in the same note, if we're going to look at trying to retain and get them to come into our community or expand the footprint that we have here, if we're going to have an airport, we need to do the best job we can as far as trying to make sure that that's user-friendly, bringing in, being able to handle the size jets that was talked about earlier. So for me, I'm looking more of from an economic, industrial, commercial standpoint of why I would support an item like this, because I think I see what you all are trying to do out there. So would that be a fair statement?
Sure.
And
Can I have another minute? I'll tell you
Sure.
one little story. I was on the Development Authority for 16 years before I got on the Airport Authority, and I actually served on both for a while, but Bill Chappell said I can't do both, so I had to choose. So I chose the airport. So I was out there one day, and nice plane came in. A guy comes in, and he goes, "I want to know, I heard y'all are building an ILS landing system. That's instrument landing system that you can land in the rain and all kind of weather." And I said, "That's correct. We're right in the middle of doing this." And he said, "That's great, because I work for Ingersoll Rand, and y'all will probably remember this." He said, "We own a building over near Columbia Drive, and we want to build an implement factory to build implements for Bobcats. And we own the building, but we can't come to a place that doesn't have an airport with an ILS landing system." And so, as being on the Development Authority, what that did, by putting the ILS at the airport, it put us up a tier. All these businesses coming in, if we don't have that, we drop down to this next level. So it put us up to that other level that brings, and I'm sure that a lot of the businesses have come in, and that's one of their requirements. I mean, that's on their sheet. Must have an ILS landing system. Same thing with the tug. And I don't know if you noticed at the fence, there was a white piece of equipment called a GPU. It's a ground power unit. And so when the jets come in, they can actually hook that up to their plane, and that runs the avionics and the air conditioner, and it keeps the thing ready to go without having to sit there and idle their engines, which is expensive to replace. So that's just another service that we did. We bought that thing. We bought it refurbed, and it's a great piece of equipment. So that's the kind of thing we got to do, because those people are bringing in a lot of jobs. to Carroll County, and so this area.
Talking yesterday to the guy in your office there.
Yeah, Cody.
Cody, he said that like, Honda Lock flew in 4 times a month with
Yep.
their big jets, and
Yep.
y'all refuel them, and that's a Harrelson County-based corporation. So
They're buying a lot of
picking up
fuel.
money, right.
And one of the things on my business plan was to have the cheapest aviation fuel in this area. So it's funny, we get these people now, and these twin barons and stuff, they come out, and we say, where are you from? He goes, well, I'm from Peachtree DeKalb Airport. I always come out here and tank up on your fuel and before I fly my trips. So they're up there where their gas is $7 a gallon. They're coming out here and filling up,
We've
paying
had
our
2
sales
accidents.
tax and everything, and using our airport.
We've
And,
had 2 accidents with pilots trying to get to your fuel station.
Exactly. Well, that's what,
They had to land in the back.
They run out of gas trying to get to our cheap gas.
127.
That's bad, but, yeah. Anyway, but we're doing a great job, I think.
I think.
We're just limited funds, and we do the best we can, so,
One more question.
okay.
On average, what would you anticipate? You mentioned 4 times the larger jet flying in. So how many times a month or every 2 months or whatever would you anticipate having a jet where you need the larger tug?
Probably 4 times a week,
Okay.
4 or 5 times a week. Sometimes we'll have 3 on the field at one time, at night, overnight, so, it's pretty often. That's really changed in the last 3 years since we got these negative blogs off the internet.
And a lot of industry. We've picked up
Yeah,
a
we
lot of
have too.
industry in
Yeah.
the county.
Yeah. Yeah.
Barry, if they have a big event in Atlanta,
Do what?
if they have a big event in Atlanta, like say they have an NCAA tournament or something, that will obviously increase the traffic out there, right?
Oh, sure. We, when they had the Super Bowl in Atlanta, we had the whole ramp covered up. I mean, we were taking reservations 2 months in advance to be able just to park a plane on the airfield. And Randy did charge a landing fee, which is not, I mean, if I land my plane at Hartsville Airport, I have to pay $1,200 to land. So us charging them a couple of $100 for a landing fee was not bad, but we had a great month that month. I think bottom line was $15,000 or something. That's the most we'd ever made.
Well, it's easier in and out at Carrollton than it is Hartsville.
It is.
Fulton.
It is.
Lot
We're
easier
great
in
because
and out.
we're right outside the Mode C ring,
Right.
so people coming from Florida going north, we're just right there. You don't have to fool with Atlanta, and we're here. We're like 7 miles outside the ring, so you just come right in and go. So it's a perfect location for us.
I flew back in the 70s with C.B. Phillips. That's when I first started.
I feel sorry for you.
He was a hot dog.
Anything else?
Any further questions?
Thank
Thank you, Barry, for coming.
Okay.
Thank you, Barry.
Okay, next on our agenda for Tuesday night is that we will have an appointment to the West Georgia Regional Airport Authority, and a reminder to Montreal and George that you will each have an appointment also to the Community Development Appeals Board of Carroll County. So the next thing is 9.3, the Animal Control Ordinance, and at the request of the Carroll County Humane Society, this was removed for further review, and I granted that to them, so we'll look for that at a further meeting. Next, under zoning, we will not have a public hearing at this point, but we will have Avery Jackson will inform us on the zoning ordinance amendment that we are going to review and vote on Tuesday evening.
Ben, you want to come up? I was going to just discuss this at the regular meeting on Tuesday, but we can go ahead and talk about it now. But what we're looking to do is we're looking to remove 2 classifications from the zoning ordinance, and that is because the Carroll County Board of Health increased the minimum area that you have to have for reserve septic systems. So they increased that reserve area, unencumbered area, so you can't have any improvements on that, and they increased that size to a 1/2 acre. And so one of the Carroll County zoning ordinance classifications is a half-acre lot. Well, of course, if you have to have a minimum unencumbered area, then a half-acre lot size doesn't make much sense. So to just clear up that issue so there's no confusion, so nobody's applying for that zoning classification, we'd like to remove that from the zoning ordinance. Also, there's another size that is 10,000 square feet above a half acre, that again, it just doesn't make, it's not quite a 3/4 of an acre, although we call it 3/4 of an acre. It's not 3/4 of an acre, it's less than that. But it just doesn't make sense because you just don't have, you won't have that half acre unencumbered lot size if people want to build a pool or a shed, and once you take into account their driveway and other things like that. So it would just be to remove those two zoning classifications from the zoning ordinance to clear up any confusion with that.
And just to add to that, the recession is over. The pipe farms are slowly dwindling in Carroll County, so in the future, we're going to start seeing new developments. For those of y'all that work in the development field, one of the things we always know is we want that level playing field with our input costs. So at this point in time, since no developments have been purchased, so anyone looking for any new property in Carroll, knowing that the minimum is 1 or half, he now can negotiate the price for the property. So, and it's those things that catch developers and investors off, you know, because he's coming in thinking I can do a half or a 3/4 acre. And then we're looking at, well, no, really, you know, once he gets in deeper, he does his soil test and, and gets to zoning, you're really looking at 1 acre. Well, that greatly impacts his input cost to the development. So, you know, in some ways, we're trying to get things clean so anyone that does come before the board knows what the rules are up front.
This only affects where a septic system is in place.
It's only going to affect where a septic system is going. So, and that was what the Board of Health did. They didn't want to, you know, pull the rug out of anyone that had an approved development or lots already in Carroll County. All of those are grandfathered in. None of those things have changed. So anybody that had their lots approved and went through zoning, they still have them. So it's just really what Avery's talking about, going forward from today, everyone would have the same.
I'm all for cleaning it up and making us look more organized. I think it's a reflection,
Right.
you know, on our community. If I'm in the hamburger business and I don't offer Big Macs anymore, I need to take that off my website.
Exactly,
So-
and that's kind of where there's multiple agencies involved in building in this county. So, and that's what we are. One agency is here, the Carroll County is we got to catch up, and that way we'll be equal across the board.
If we're not gonna grant it, we sure don't need it on the front of the platform.
Right. What else did we have, Avery? I think that's it. That was it? Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, at this time, I don't have anything else on our agenda for Tuesday night, so I will adjourn the meeting.
I just wanted to ask everybody to join me in wishing Tommy a happy birthday. His birthday is Saturday, and as you go out the chambers, we've got cake.